All right, welcome everyone to today's lecture. So today I will be doing the previous year questions, which I have previously done in the previous class. But I will be moving further on, and I will be discussing new questions with you, which are relevant to the topic which I have taught in the class. So let's get started, shall we? Without wasting any further time. So I will be explaining you to the techniques which are involved when we are doing this type of question, and I will also be explaining to you how to do these questions in minimum time. Right? Let's go. So we have a question on our hand. Let's see. Yeah, a square loop of side 2A and carrying current I is kept in XZ plane with its center at origin. A long wire carrying the same current I is placed parallel to the z-axis and passing through the point 0, b, 0. All right. A magnitude of the torque on the loop about z-axis will be, right? Okay. So carrying current, okay. So this is let's visualize what is happening. Before doing anything, we should be able to visualize what is happening with us in the question. So this would probably be the graph of the figure. So a square loop of side 2A is kept. Okay. B is greater than A. Remember this. Okay. So that means this will be A. So suppose a square loop of side 2A is kept like this, right? And so this thing, the length will be equal to 2A. So this coordinate will be A. Of course, x comma y, that means A comma 0 comma 0, right? And this will be minus A comma 0 comma 0, right? And this thing will be, of course, as you know, 0 comma A comma 0, and it will be 0 comma minus A comma 0. Let me just write this down: 0 comma A comma 0, right? And this will be 0 comma minus A comma 0. So no need to worry about these coordinates because they will not be used if you understand what is happening in the figure. So look at this. So they are saying that a long wire carrying the same current, the value of the current is same, so that is quite important. Same current I is placed parallel to z-axis. Parallel to z-axis, that means it is protruding out of the plane or into the plane. We don't know. And passing through the point 0, b, 0. So that means it is passing through, suppose this is xy plane. Let me just label it because that will be easier for you to understand. Then B will be somewhere over here, very far away from A. It will have no significance whatsoever. So the the torque applied will be somewhat equal, and the magnetic force which is produced by this wire would be equal on both sides, somewhat equal to on both sides, because B is very greater than A, like this point, which this point emphasized. So let's move further and see what is happening. So this thing is 0 comma b comma a, 0 comma b comma 0, yeah, and it is protruding out of plane. That means this is the direction of the wire. Funny thing about this, right? So you might these are the symbols of protruding out of the plane, out of the plane. This is into the plane. Into, let me just write it. Into the plane. Yep. So this is into the plane. So how do we know that this is into the plane, this is out of the plane? There's a technique to remember this. You might have seen the Indian Railways, and when the train goes inside, it means when the train goes away from you, there big X which is written on the back of the carriage. You might have remembered that. So when you see X, that means the train is going away. That means train is going inside. Train is going away from you into the plane. Think of it that way. So that is a visual cue to remember this thing. That means if it is into the plane, then of course that will be out of the plane. Okay, let me remove this. If it is into the plane, that will be out of the plane. Okay, so we have this plane. Just a new technique for you to remember, because these things might come in handy after a certain period of time when you forget, when you're starting to do revision of what you have studied in the beginning of class 12, because these things are in the beginning, not in the end, and till the end you might don't remember what everyone is talking about. So you need to keep in mind that these things are very important. So 0 comma b comma 0, that is the point, that is the coordinate of a wire. So let's write down the formula. What is the formula of torque? Like torque tau is equal to m b sine theta. Of course it is m cross b, right? But let's just write sine theta because we know that the the magnetic moment and the magnetic field produced by the wire will be at perpendicular, that is 90 degrees, so that doesn't matter, doesn't matter at this moment. And of course everything is in positive, so don't need to worry about sign as such, because we're not gonna add something or subtract something. We're just gonna have to use multiplication in this case because it's a formula which is used. This is the formula which is used. Okay, so this is a, and this is our square, and let's talk about this. This is magnetic moment, right? Magnetic moment, magnetic magnetic moment, magnetic moment. Okay, this is magnetic moment. And what is b? B is of course your, what is b? B is of course the unit which you just derived after Biot-Savart's law. It is basically the magnetic force which is applicable on your object. So let's write it down what it is. So that will be equal to mu naught I by 2 pi d. Well, d is nothing as surprising. 2 pi d. Okay. So let's move further and think about what is happening. D is just nothing but the distance between the magnetic field and the center. So let's just write it as B to avoid any further confusion, because that will be necessary when we are dealing with a situation like this. So let me just write down this 2 pi B. That is better. And what is M? Like we all know the formula of M is NIA. So keep it in your mind like this. It is NIA, and is number of loops. I is current and A is area. Let me write down number. Okay, number of loops. And I is of course current, as we all know. A is area in this case. So let's move on further and talk about what is happening. What is happening? We're just gonna multiply them. And what is M, by the way? Will come out to be M equals N is 1, of course, 1 into I is I, of course, the current which is flowing inside I, right? And this will also be I, by the way, because they have said so. It said so. I into area. What is area? Area will be equal to 2a square, because it has side of 2a. So I into 2a square, that shall be equal to I into 4a square. Keep this in mind and let's multiply them. MB. And what is the sine theta? Sine theta is of course 90 degree. That will be equal to sine 90 equals 1. I equals 4a. So what will this come out to be? Okay, sorry. Let me just remove this. Because we're calculating our torque. torque will come out to be m dot m into b, that is I into 4a square into mu naught I to pi b. Pretty straightforward till this point. Nothing to worry about. So this will cut this by, it will be 2. So this will all come out to be mu naught I square a square by pi b. So you don't need to worry about this question because this will be the easiest question which you might solve in the JEE exam, by the way. So just keep in mind the formulas are, well memorized and you have everything on the tip of your tongue. And when you're dealing with question like these, just remember one thing which you should use is that always write all the steps when you're doing anything, because it will help you not only in JEE Mains but in JEE Advanced too. Because sometimes you forget what you wrote earlier, and take as much space as you want. Be as clear as possible, because at the end you are the ones who should be understanding what is happening in your own question. Okay, so let me write it down again in a better manner. Magnetic moment. Okay, I believe this is better than before, right? Okay, let's go on to the next question. Next question is value of acceleration due to gravity g1 at a height h is equal to r by 2. That is height h is equal to r by 2. That means let's just visualize what that means, right? Everything should be visualized. That means if Earth is like this, right? If Earth is like this and the radius is r, so the person is standing from a height h. So not a person. The value of acceleration is at a height h. That means the observer at height h shall be equal to r by 2, right? Okay, from the surface of Earth, it is again equal to g1 at depth d below the surface, uh, d below the surface of the Earth. Okay, they made a spelling mistake. It should be off here, off the Earth. But what do they mean by this? They are inside Earth. Let's draw Earth in a bigger way. So this is R, and at some point D in which they are, let me just uh, show it in a better color. Yeah, maybe purple. Yeah, D. Suppose this is D, and they are inside the circle. They are on the circle inside the Earth. So the value of acceleration at this point and at this point, right, is same. So let's just jump to the formula and then equate them. So this will be of no issue to you, I believe. So it's just, so Gn is equal to Gd. That means this one is equal to this one, right? So what will be the formula of gravity at this point? That will be Gm by r plus h square. Of course, h is r by 2, but we can write that later, because first we need to have a clear understanding, and we need to have these formulas memorized in our mind. That is, we should not stutter when we think about formulas. We should have this as clear as day. That means as crystal clear as possible. All right, let's move on to this question. The formula for this could be derived right now if you want me to. So this will be just pretty straightforward. Think about it as this. Suppose the upper Earth is removed, and what remains is the lower Earth. Basically, yeah, uh, underworld. So suppose the Earth which is removed, because outer Earth will not have any influence on it whatsoever, any influence on gravitation whatsoever, because well, the gravitation potential, because when you're inside, the forces will cancel out. It's a great thing to do with maths, but take it as a fact, it will cancel out. And I will be teaching gravitation, and I will be explaining to you why it cancels. It's a big topic, so there's no need to wonder. There's no need to worry about it. So as and if you have like if you have come to this far to give JEE exam, you must have done that root cancel out. So just think about it this way: do not memorize formula as such, but have clear understanding of what formulas are. And if you have a clear understanding, you will naturally memorize them. So what is the role of R then? So what will be the mass of the Earth inside this? So mass of the Earth inside this will be m into 4 by 3 pi d cube upon m into 4 by 3 pi r cube. Straightforward. Cut this from cancel. These things will cancel out. What will remain? Okay, sorry. Yeah, and this m will not be there because we are comparing the radiuses. So this will be equal to m d cube by r cube. So this will be the new mass which is applicable to this formula only, not this formula as such, but this formula gm by r square. To this formula, this is the actual formula and this is the formula on a certain height. So this will be the new mass which we have obtained. New. I believe my handwriting has improved because I am now placing my elbow on the table, so that might appear somewhat shifty from previous classes, but this is the way I write now. It's very it's a better way to write, by the way. So let me just close this. Okay. So gm by r squared. Okay. So let's move on further from this. What will be the formula of gravity at inside the Earth? What will be the formula? Formula will be nothing but simple. That will be equal to gm by r cube r minus d. Okay, let me just remove this, what I have written, that I would have more space to write. Okay, it is at gravity depth below the surface of Earth. Okay, it is at gravity, it is at depth d below the surface of Earth. That means this will be equal to r minus d. Okay, this will be equal to r minus d. So we have this formula which will come out after we have spent time on deriving that. And it will be wonderful if you look at this in a better manner. That is, these things will be equal. And let's just write it down in a better manner. Gm by r plus r by 2. That means 2r. That means of course 3r by 2. 3r by 2 cube will be equal to this thing, right? Okay, let's write everything down in a better manner so that you would be able to understand what we need to do, what we need to practice, and what we need to write now. What we need right now is clarity on what is happening. That is gm by r 3r by 2 gm by 3r by 2 square shall be equal to gm by r cube r minus d. Now look at this. The units will of course make sense because this thing will come out to give you length, and this is length cube. So the thing in denominator should be length squared. So at that 1 degree will cancel out, and it will run to the square. So let's move from this question. What do we mean gm will cancel out? No need to have that in formula. Of course, r. So that what's this? 4 by 9 r square equal to r minus d r cube. This will cancel out. That will render you, that will give you 4 by 9 equals r minus d by r. Take r over here, take 9 over here. 4r minus 9r. 4r equals 9r minus 9D. I'm thinking too fast right now, so that's why I need to slow down a little bit. Yep. 4R equals 9R minus 9D. So what will this give you? 9D shall be equal to 5R. And D will be equal to 5R by 9. We have arrived at this conclusion, and this will be our answer. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay, this is question 21. I have included a numerical based question so that you would have a better understanding and also understand what type of questions coming to exam. Okay, so basically I'm talking about understanding too much at this point, but what I mean is that you need to understand that these questions, whatever question coming to exam, and you need to have a clear cut view about what is happening. So of course, by the way, vectors and forces. So uh, wait a minute, my OBS stopped. Wait a minute, my camera stopped for a minute. Yeah. I am visible, right? Yes, I am visible. Okay. Okay, I am visible. Sorry for the inconvenience, minor inconveniences which it might have caused. Uh, that happens sometimes. Of course, OBS is not that great software, but enough about that. Enough about that software. Let's move on to this question. Of course, F equal to I plus 2j plus 3k Newton acts on a point 4I plus 3j minus k. Bit rate is lower than 0. Okay, there are some issues with us, I believe. Okay, I don't think there are issues with us. But anyways, this YouTube dashboard is suggesting me something. Well, never mind. These things are weird, of course. Okay, why? Let's not waste any more of our time on them. Force. Okay, this force acts on a point. The magnitude of the talk about that point will be I plus 2j plus k. At point, it acts on a point this. The magnitude of the talk about the point this will be x Newton meter. The value of x is all right. We need to find r. So basically, so the torque is acting on a point. Let me just visualize it. So this is the force. This is the force, and it is acting on a point this, right? It is acting on a point A. So they are asking about that magnitude of torque on a point B shall be, right? Shall be. What will be? This is B. This is I plus 2j plus 3k, and this shall be 4I plus 3j minus k. K cap. Don't forget to put cap, or as I would like to call it, the crown on a vector. So we need to find r. So r would be vector b minus vector a. That would be the r. That is the thing which we need to find. So this will be r. So r will come out to be 4 minus 1 I cap plus 3 minus 2 j cap plus 3 minus 1, so that means it will become plus k cap, right? So what will this result in? Okay, this is 3I plus 2 plus 3 minus 3k, 3 minus 2, 3 minus 2, 3 minus 2, 3 minus 1, absolute point minus k. I believe there's something wrong with this question. Because from my notes I'm seeing that this should give you the, okay, so let's just write down the result. 3 I cap plus j cap plus 4 cap, right? So that should not be the case with us. Yeah, because -1 -4, yeah, that should not be the case with us, because we have did this, we have subtracted the first vector, the second vector from the first, while we should have been doing the opposite thing. So that will be equal to -1 -3. Again, that still does not make sense. This should not be equal to 3, I believe. This should be equal to, let's just see what my notes say, because, okay, my notes are stupid. Don't mind them. Let's just focus on this question. -1 -1 -3. So that will be equal to -4 k cap. Okay. So torque is equal to R cross F, and that shall be equal to, we have the equation of F. What is the equation of F? Okay. I plus 2j plus k at about a point, I plus 2j plus k. Okay. This shall be the point k, and we need to find this. So it will be equal to 1 minus 3. Yep. That's what was missing in my notes. Yeah, that was what was missing from my notes. So we'll just move on further, and let's see what it will render. It will render -2k. This will be, of course, -2 plus j minus 2k. So R cross F equal to, let's write what it will render. I cap, j cap, and k cap. It will be a matrix, of course, and we know how to solve a matrix. So what will it give us? What will it, let me write it in, not in slanting lines, but in straight lines. Okay, it is somewhat difficult to make straight lines, but let's focus on the question. 3 1 minus 2. This will be the coordinates. This will be the points which I should be put in the matrix to get the answer. And let's not waste our time any further. Let's move to the question and see what it does. So what will this be? I is equal to I into 3 minus -2, 3 minus, okay, 3 I shall be equal to 3 minus -2 into 2 plus j, that shall be equal, sorry, minus j, because we know that's how we solve a matrix. Minus j 9. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, 9 minus -2 plus k. Let me write it over here. Let me remove what I've written. Oh, come on, this vector gets a little bit messy. Yeah, plus k plus k cap 6 minus 1, that means 5. 6 minus 1. Okay, let's write down the resulting torque, which will come out to be, that will be 7 I cap minus 11 j cap plus 5 k cap. Now this will be torque, and what will be our come on, remove. Okay, what will be our magnitude of this torque? Nothing too sinister. 19, okay. That shall be equal to 49 7 square plus, okay, let me write down in a better manner. That shall be equal to 7 square plus 11 square plus 5 square. So this whole thing in under root, that will be the magnitude of the torque. That will be 121 121 plus 25 and under root. That will render you, what will be this equal to when we combine them? This will be equal to 170 170 plus 25, that will be equal to 195. So that will be equal to root 195, and root x, that is also equal to root x. So we have x as equal to 195. So ladies and gentlemen, we have our answer here. And let's move further. Question 8. A wheel is rotating freely with angular speed omega on a shaft. A moment of inertia of the wheel, is I, and the moment of inertia of the shaft is negligible. Okay, the moment of inertia of the shaft is negligible. So another wheel of a moment of inertia 3I, initially at rest, is suddenly coupled to the same shaft. A resultant fractional loss in the kinetic energy of the system is, okay. So they're saying that, a wheel is rotating on a shaft. Suppose this is the shaft and a wheel is rotating over here, right? So if a wheel is rotating over here and everything is fine, and moment of inertia of shaft is negligible, so that means the shaft is also rotating. Another wheel of moment of inertia at rest is suddenly coupled to the same shaft. Shaft is also rotating with the wheel. Keep this in mind. So they're saying that they have added another wheel from rest, another wheel of another different moment of inertia. They have coupled that to the same shaft. So now, what will be the loss of kinetic energy? So what do we need to do? We need to find the initial kinetic energy, we need to find the final kinetic energy, and then we need to subtract final kinetic energy. We need to subtract initial kinetic energy from the final kinetic energy to find if there is a loss. And of course, that thing will be negative if there will be a loss. We can subtract final from initial to find out that too, but the loss will be, there should be a loss if you're subtracting it from final, if you're subtracting initial from final, and that means if then if the result is negative, that means energy has been gained, but that is somewhat not possible, right? So if you're subtracting inertia initial from final and you see that it is negative, then that means the energy has been lost. Pretty interesting. So let's move on. A wheel is rotating. This question is also quite amazing. So we have two formulas with us. That is, first formula is when you figure out the laws of kinetic energy, basically, then the formula of kinetic energy, and you have law of conservation of angular momentum. So let me write it down. We have law of conservation of angular momentum. Let's just say momentum. Yep. Law of conservation of angular momentum. So that we have initial angular momentum shall be equal to final angular momentum. Basically, this will be equal to this. I omega shall be equal to I omega f, the final angular momentum of the previous wheel of inertia I, and plus 3I omega f, because this is the new quantity, new wheel which has been attached to us Now we have to calculate what will be the fractional loss in kinetic energy. So this is the fractional loss. So you have to keep in mind that they will ask you about the fraction and nothing else. All right, let's move in. This question basically is not, it's not numerical type of question. This is an MCQ question, but we're gonna do it as a numerical one because depending on the answers, depending on the options for our answers, is not a great thing. So let's move on further and let's see. I omega square. Okay, yeah, so omega c shall come out to be we are gonna add them, and omega c shall come out to be omega by 4, because this will be equal to I omega f for I omega f, and that shall be equal to I omega. Omega c shall be equal to omega by 4. That's obvious now. So what will be the loss of kinetic energy? That means initial kinetic energy minus final kinetic energy. So what will be the initial kinetic energy? K E initial. Let me write it down. Initial shall be equal to who? I omega square by 2. Now final kinetic energy, that means the kinetic energy of entire system at the final instant, shall be equal to Ke final, that will be equal to I omega f square, and we know what omega f is, omega by 4 square by 2, and again basically we can take it as 3i because of course we know how to add I. So basically 3i, basically 4i, you can take it as 4i because this is the moment of inertia of the new system shall be equal to 4i omega square by 4 2. So that means, what does it mean? It means that this shall be equal to I omega square by 2 into 4. So this is our K final. So what will be the loss in K? What will be the loss in K? Loss in K, that is delta Ke, shall be equal to initial minus final. That means I omega square upon 2 minus I omega square upon 2 into 4. We gotta take I omega square by 2 as common, and this will render you 3 by 4 into I omega square by 2. That is loss. Now fractional loss means, that means we're gonna divide loss by, let me just, that means we are gonna divide loss by, our initial kinetic energy, that will be equal to, and by the way, you might have known what the answer will be, because it is as plain as day at this moment. So there's nothing to worry about right now. Pen. Yeah. So loss upon initial, that will be fractional loss upon initial, basically fractional loss initial. So shall be equal to 3 by 4 basically. Yeah. And that is the answer to this question. That's how we solve the question. And this was pretty easy, and you might have seen that most of the questions in JEE Mains exam are pretty easy. There's nothing to worry about because the exam is very easy itself. So let's move on to the other question if we can. Yeah, we do have time to perform this question. This will be a great question to do. A ball is moving up in vertically, a balloon is moving up, let me get the pen. Yeah. By the way, let me warn you, this question can be a little bit Again, my camera has stopped. Okay, what is happening with the camera? All right, let me just see if something is wrong with my camera. Yeah, deactivate, activate. Yeah, let's see. There's something seriously wrong with my camera. Yeah. Okay. For this interruption, this untimely interruption, but let me just see why it's not working. Activate. Why are you not working? Yeah, it is working as fine as day. Perfect. 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 Just what we need at this moment. Just what we needed. Right? Okay, so let's do this question without wasting any further time, because you might have seen a balloon is moving up in vertically up in r vertically above a point A on the ground when it is at height h1. A girl standing at D, a girl standing at D point B. That means this point from A, C figure. Okay, sees it at an angle 45 degree with respect to vertical. So that means let's just draw this figure uh, in a more magnified sense so we get a clear idea of what is happening. Okay, so this thing, yeah, this thing, and we have this thing. We have this thing with us with 45 degree, and this will be this angle. It is seen at angle 60 degree with respect to vertical. So this is 60 degree. So of course this will be, as you all know, 30 degree. Nothing to, I mean, this is no brainer at this moment. So this height will be h2, this will be h1, this will be D. This will be 2.464. By the way, let me just remind you what is gonna happen now. I believe this will come out to be 1. I believe that. This is gonna come out to be 1 because this will be 2 plus root 2, 2 plus root 2, because this thing will render you 2 plus root 2 if this come out to be 1. This whole thing will become 2 plus root 2, and that is very convenient for us. Very convenient for us. Let's see. All right. Let's do this. So what is tan 45? Tan 45. We have tan 45. Let's write it in a more beautiful way because it's better to understand that way. Tan 45 shall be equal to h1 by d. Again, that shall be equal to 1. So h1 equal d. h1 equal d. This will give you h1 equals d. Something to keep in mind. Maybe it might come useful, right? So let's see what is tan 30. Tan 30 is equal to h2 plus h1 upon d plus 2.464d. That means basically 3.464d. 3.464d. All right, so this is this thing, and let's see with respect to the vertical, and what is this? 0.5744. This sounds dangerously close to, again, this sounds dangerously close to 2 minus root 2, but I'm not gonna take my chances. Maybe I can when I solve this. Maybe I can then, but not right now, because look at this 1.464. Everything aligns a little too perfectly. So this shall be equal to 1 by root 3, and we all know 1 by root 3 shall be equal to 0.5774 is equal to 0. 5774, right? So H2 plus H1, that is this. So they're gonna they need to find H2. So this is pretty easy because H1 equals D, right? Let's just write it down again. Transport this over here. Transfer this over here. Yeah, I was right. I was right. So this thing will be, think about this. This thing can be written as 2 minus 2 minus root 2. You just need, that's the thing which you need in JEE. You just need a perception. You just need to understand what is happening. Like this thing can be written as 2 minus root 2 for simplification. Yeah, all right. All you need to do is you need to simplify things so that it suits you and then solve the question easily. So this is 2 minus root 2. This is, of course, again, as I told you, this thing will be, shall be equal to 2 plus root 2. Now transfer this over here, right? So H2, and what will be this H2 plus H1? What is H1? H1 is equal to T. So let's do it fast. H2 plus D shall be equal to 2 minus root 2 into 2 plus root 2. A plus B, A minus B. Silly question again, right? Silly question again. So into D, of course, because it is 1 by root 3 D. Yeah, 1 by root 3 D. Yeah, because this is D. But yeah, D will also get transferred over here. D will also get transferred here. We cannot forget the D. So this will be equal to 4 minus 2. That is equal to 2D. And this will be equal to D, H2 plus D. So H2 will be equal to, H2 plus B will be equal to, let me write it over here because we have space here. H2 will be equal to D. Really amazing. The result is really great. And this will be our answer. Pretty straightforward. This was the best question that I've done today. Like in all of the class, this is the best question which I've done. Because this is too easy and it just needs perception. It is begging for perception. It is begging for you to see this as something plus root 2, something plus root 2, right? That something would be x plus root 2. It is begging you to see that. And you can, of course, see that. And this thing is also begging you to see that. Of course, you know, tan 30 is equal to 1 by root 3, but we're not going to use that. That is of no use. This is begging you to see that it is 2 minus root 2. That is just what you have to do. This is a question from JEE 2020. So it's just a year ago that this question was asked. And it's a great question. So that's what JEE does. It tries to confuse you into thinking that, hey, maybe this question is unsolvable. You know why? Because sometimes questions like these are too intimidating at first sight. So people just leave them. So that's the thing which you should not do. That is, we should not leave them. These questions are meant to be seen because when Jay gives you something like this, they will not expect you to have a calculator because you do not have a calculator. They will expect you to do it in your mind. And if you can do it, if they expect you to do it in the mind, then that will be solvable in the mind. There will be nothing. I mean, of course, this question is not from JEE Advanced, in which you have to spend time to find something and the decimal digit starts increasing. It's not like JEE Advanced. It's just like it is just JEE Mains, one of the easiest exam in the country, but also one of the hardest. Uh, if you try to score more, then it becomes one of the hardest exams in the country. That's what you have to do. Again, use perception. And this question, again, my favorite one, will be basically today's last question. So in the next class, I will also be covering these type of questions in a better detail. And these questions will be not specifically this question, this type of trigonometric question, but these questions will be helpful to you in understanding that which type of questions come in JEE and how to solve them. Basically, you know how to solve them, of course. With practice, that is the thing. But what type of things to look for? Like, for example, this thing. 2 minus root 2. You need to be able to practice so much that you just jump on perception. You just jump everything which looks uh, kind of scary to you. You just look for patterns. Yeah, that's what you should do. You should look for patterns in every exam. There should be nothing which should scare you. Everything is formed upon patterns. JEE uses a certain pattern to give certain questions in every year in JEE Mains, and JEE Advanced also uses pattern, but those patterns of JEE Advanced are mostly unpredictable because they don't have any limit to what type of questions they will ask you. They don't have any limit to what will be the difficulty of the question which they will ask you. But in JEE Mains, that is too much easy, so don't worry about that. And I believe this class is uh, it for today. And these are great questions, and these questions shall be very useful for you to understand what is happening. So I believe this is it. This is great for understanding, and we will meet again after 2 days, and that will be it for today's class. Thanks for joining us.